Today we're going to look at factoring trinomials. The first thing I'd like you to do is to multiply the binomials using distribution. Pause the video and go ahead and do that. So we'll take x times x plus 3 plus 2 times x plus 3, and we get x squared plus 3x plus 2x plus 6. And let's stop right there for now. If we label this square with side lengths of x plus 2 and x plus 3, we get x squared, and we have a 6 here. Okay, and this would be 2x and 3x. And you know now that you can combine your like terms, and you have x squared plus 5x plus 6. So as we factor trinomials, we're actually going to start with the trinomial, like x squared plus 5x plus 6, and go backwards to our two binomials. So let's see what that looks like. What are the possible dimensions of the figure and notice if the figure is not drawn to scale? So what could we put in this box here and this box here? So this would be x, and this would be x. But what are the possible values for these two side lengths, from here to here and from here to here? So let's make a list. Okay, what are some two numbers that multiply to give us 8? So who have a product of 8? We could have 8 times 1. We could have 4 times 2. So this could be x plus 4 and x plus 2, or x plus 1 and x plus 8. So keep that in mind as we move forward. We could have 4x here and 2x here. So notice these two add up to give us 6x, but when we multiply 4 and 2, we get 8. Okay, and if you look back at the previous example, 3x and 2x give us 5x. So let's look. Let's try one. So we want to factor x squared plus 6x plus 8. So we want factors of c. So 8 is c. So this is if we're looking at our standard form of the quadratic equation. 8 is c and 6 is b. So we want factors of c that give us a sum of b. So two numbers that multiply to give us c that add up to give us b. So in this case, this would be 8 and this would be 6. So what are those numbers? Well, I could start out and I could say 8 times 1, but that gives 8. 8 plus 1 gives me 9. So that doesn't work. But 4 times 2 works. Okay, so 4 plus 2. So how does this relate? So we have x squared plus 6x plus 8. We know if we're using distribution, our first terms, x times x, has to give us x squared. What we put here has to multiply to give us 8. So that's going to be plus 4 and plus 2. Okay, so this would be x plus 4 and x plus 2. This is 4x and 2x. Notice when we add these, we get 6x, and when we multiply, we get 8. Okay, let's try another one. We're going to use factoring to solve. So we want two numbers who multiply to give us 16, who have a sum of negative 10. So we know these numbers have to be negative. Well, negative 1 times negative 16, that doesn't work. We could do negative 2 times negative 8. That looks like that works because negative 2 plus negative 8 gives us negative 10. Okay, so let's go ahead and factor. We have x squared minus 10x plus 16 equals 0. So we want to set up our two binomials. And we have x minus 2 times x minus 8. Notice that negative 2 times negative 8 gives me a positive 16. If we're looking at our outer terms, we have negative 8x and negative 2x give us negative 10x. So now we want to use our zero product property to find out what are our two solutions. So we have x minus 2 is equal to 0 and x minus 8 is equal to 0. And we add 2 to both sides. So x is equal to 2. We can add 8 to both sides, and x is equal to 8. So our solution set here is 2 and 8. Remember, those are our x-intercepts if we're looking at the graph. How would we solve this equation? Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to subtract 6 from both sides. So we have x squared plus 5x minus 6 is equal to 0. So we want to go ahead and add that in. So now we want to factor this trinomial. Okay, we know that our first terms, when we multiply, x times x has to give us x squared, but we need now two numbers who multiply to give us negative 6, that add to give us 5. Okay, so what two numbers multiply to give us negative 6 but add to give us 5? So we could say 6 times negative 1, that gives us negative 6, and 6 plus negative 1, which gives us 5. So it looks like we have it. So we have x plus 6 and x minus 1. Okay, so if you want to prove that or check it, you can use distribution or FOIL, multiply this out, and you should get this trinomial here. So let's use our zero product property. And we have x is equal to negative 6 and x is equal to 1. Okay, so let's look at our solution. We have x is equal to negative 6 and x is equal to 1. So on a graph, those are the x-intercepts, and they're also called the roots. Okay, and you can think of that as holding your graph in place. So notice this is the point negative 6, 0, and this is the point 1, 0. So our x term is 6, our y term is 0. Our x term is 1, and our y term is 0. Oops, our y. Okay, so let's try this out. Do you have any questions? Make sure you write them down if you do. And then I want you to try these 4 problems, okay, and make sure that you check your solution.